Hello, 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 and welcome to the last of the Doctor Who full season series reviews. Yes, we have finally made it to the the last one. We'll go with that one because apparently I cannot say but per, the last one. We're just going to stick with the last one. Yes, after 10 straight months now, I have been rewatching from series 2 onwards because, last year I did my series 11 to 13 plus series 1 review, and this year we have been going from season 2 to the final season of Doctor Who that I have yet to review because as of recording this, it's the 24th of October. So I still have, the Christmas specials of Matt Smith, excluding A Christmas Carol, and all of Capaldi's Christmas specials left to review, but that'll be done in December. And then, of course, there's still the 60th anniversary to come, as well as Shooty's first Christmas story and series 14, because again, I'm recording this on the 24th, which means on the 23rd of October, Doctor Who has already been filming for the series 15. So yeah, let's get started with episode 1, the pilot. Now, this is a story that I've watched twice, but I haven't watched it since 2017. So we're coming up to 6 years since Capaldi left the show. Actually, it has been 6 years. Technically, Christmas Day will mark 6 years since Capaldi left the show. But it's like I remember there being a lot of confusion around the title of the pilot because But I do remember some of the promotional stuff that was coming out. Moffat was saying that this is another jumping on point for fans of the show because it was kind of like a somewhat of a soft reboot, but not really a reboot type of way. Like there's really three main jump on points that and any fan can jump on if they really wanted to. The first one is obviously series 1 episode 1 Rose. The other one is series 5 episode 1 The 11th Hour, and then of course this one series 10 episode 1 The Pilot. Now, this also introduces us to our new companion for this series, Bill Potts. Now, I absolutely love Bill. I honestly think she is one of the most underrated companions out there. The same way I feel Capaldi is, in a sense, underrated because not a lot of people like his version of the Doctor. And I'm honestly sad to say that I'm not looking forward to reviewing his Christmas specials simply because I'm not ready to say goodbye to him again. Because I love Capaldi. I've loved going back through his run, his tenure, and falling in love with his Doctor all over again. But we'll park that for another time. What did I think of the pilot? I like it. It's a good episode. It's a great introduction to Bill. It's a great introduction to the mystery of who's in the vault. We obviously know who's in the vault, and of course, bringing back Nardole, who was shown in the Husbands of River song, as well as the return of Doctor Mysterio. Because remember, from series 9 to series 10, there was a whole year gap of 2016. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Nardole. I like him. He grew on me towards the end, and then especially on this rewatch, I didn't really find him all that annoying, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, the pilot I really liked. The next episode is Smile. Now, this is another episode that I don't think I've watched since it originally aired. And originally, I did not like it. I remember just liking it up to a certain point, and then it felt like downhill when it was the humans versus the robots. Before the Doctor realizes, oh, these are actually now technically sentient species. But I didn't mind it. I actually did not mind it on this rewatch. I think it's a really good introduction for Bill for outside of the pilot to experience just some of the stuff that the Doctor does. She's constantly asking, why is the TARDIS the shape of a police box, and stuff, and it's really really good. Uh, so I'm really happy that I actually gave it another shot. The next episode, though, is Thin Ice. Now, I remember this episode when it first aired. Now, this is again another episode I haven't returned to since it aired, but this episode was where I started to love Bill. Um, and it just this episode remind doing this rewatch reminded me of that so much because she's calling the doctor out on his shit, after that little kid dies. That's the first time she's seen someone die. Excluding last episode where they arrive when people have already died. This is her first time seeing someone die, and it's a little kid, nonetheless. And she's upset with how the doctor is acting to it. That's why she asks him a bunch of questions like, "Have you seen this type of thing before of people being killed?" And the doctor answers yes. And it's like, and so what? You just don't care? And the doctor's like, "I don't have the luxury to care. I wouldn't be able to function if I had the luxury to truly care and mourn these people." As like there's a great character study that can be done for both Bill and the Doctor in this episode. Because Bill then asks him, um, have you ever killed someone? And either the doctor says yes, or he just gives her a look, and then she asks how many, and then he gives her that look, and she's like, "Oh, what? Did you forget?" Obviously, the doctor hasn't forgotten who he's killed, but he's moved on. That's another big part of it, and he gives another great speech about um, how the value we put on a life is what determines the measure of a species, which was really really good. They're basically at the last great frost fair on the Thames essentially, and it's a really really good episode. And like I said, there's a lot of character study that can be done for both Peter Capaldi's interpretation of the Doctor and of the companion Bill, and how she's being introduced to this and how she processes it and stuff. And like I said, I absolutely love it. The next episode, though, Knock Knock, is an episode I didn't like on first viewing. I thought it was very very silly and very very stupid. Back when back when I was 19, a know-it-all little 19-year-old. Uh, but I didn't mind it on this viewing. I thought it was okay. Not the worst that has ever come from this show. There's worse that came after this season, and there's worse that came before this season. But it's not that bad. Seeing Bale basically trying to move out of her foster mother's house, and trying to you know find a place with these roommates, some of which she doesn't fully know, and then they find this place for dirt cheap, and turns out the house is eating them, and it's not the first time that this has happened. And you think it's this father that's looking after his daughter, and then it's not until the doctor comes face to face with her that he figures out that, oh no, it's not the father, he's the son of this person that he's trying to protect. And that kind of hit a chord with me, like of this son doing whatever he could to protect his mother. um it hit a chord with how I looked after my mother when she was sick. How I would always do that. Essentially, I'd make sure that she's taking her insulin, that her sugars are fine. If they're low, I deal with that. Get her something sweet to eat or drink, and stuff like that. So that kind of hit a chord with me there. So yeah, that was Knock Knock. The next episode is one of my favorites, and that is Oxygen, because Oxygen is one of those fantastic episodes in this show. I really 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 love it. It's a really really good capitalism story, where it's this space station. There's 40 crew members. they have this spacesuit where they actually have to pay for the air that they breathe. And it reminds me of this song that someone done for the video game The Outer Worlds. And it's just a particular tagline from that song. There's no I in team, but there is con in economy. So yeah, and basically, the doctor ends up having to sacrifice Bill in a way, but not really, because he realizes that her suit is so low, that low in power, that the suit would not kill her. Once it got the directive to do that, because it turns out that the corporation basically sent this message to the suit saying, kill the people who are using these suits, because it's cheaper to have robots do it that require no air than for humans to do it who require air. And so the doctor figures out this little thing to basically guarantee their safety. He also brings Bill back, and he, in order to like save the last few people, um, he makes it so that their lives are more valuable alive than dead, which is a very neat little thing. But also, in this episode, the doctor does something for Bill when her suit stops working that then makes him go blind. And it's not something that goes away straight away. Yes, it actually takes 2 episodes. This episode, the next episode, and the following till the end of the following episode for the Doctor to regain his sight. And I love that. I love that connectivity that they do. That it's not just the bog standard episode of the week. Everything must get wrapped up in a nice, neat bow, and then everything resets by the next episode. This episode had consequences that follow through to the Monk trilogy, which I absolutely loved. That bit of continuity. Speaking of the Monk trilogy, they are now here. Now, again, Oxygen was another episode that I had not watched since it first aired. The same is going to be said for the Monk trilogy, because originally I did not like it. I loved episode 1, I thought episode 2 was okay, and then I despised episode 3. What are my takes now that I've done this rewatch? I actually think differently. I really like the Monk trilogy. I think it's really, really good. It starts off with Extremis. The Doctor is talking to, which we now learn in the vault is Missy. Surprise! We see some flashbacks of the Doctor going to her execution not long after Beryllium, and River Song's demise. And so he then, Missy gets executed, which not really, because she's a friend of the Doctor and she's like bargaining with her life saying, I can be good, which is a massive character journey for Missy throughout this season, is her eventually becoming good. But we'll get to that. And so the Doctor's sitting outside, he's blind. He's back wearing the sonic shades, and because he's using them to see. And that's when he gets an email entitled Extremis. And it turns out that that these monks done a simulated world to find out what's the best way to invade, and that involves the Doctor and Bill going on this, and this old text and the deep catacombs of where the Pope lives, and anyone who reads this, because the translation was lost, anyone who reads this translation kills themselves, and so the Doctor is tasked with reading it, and but he can't, because he's blind, he's still blind, and so he's trying to act like he's not blind, and the monks come in, they take one of the priests, they find one of the missing priests who has sent an email of this Vertes or what have you, it begins with a V, to a bunch of people, and then he runs off and he shoots himself. He takes his own life. And then Bill and Nardal go and they come out of this portal. They go into another portal and they're in this lab thing. And that's when it gets revealed to them that, if you, this guy is like, oh, you never read this. All right, say a number every time I do that. And so they do, and they both say the same number. every single time. And so then they go back after, the place blows up because they put a stick of dynamite. Um, and then Nardole puts his hand out of this projector area and turns out he's not real. He's a simulation. Once they figure out that it's potentially a simulation. And so Bill tracks down the doctor, and then she ends up disappearing. And the doctor basically says, "Oh yeah, I read this, so I know that I'm a simulation." But here's the kicker: the monks done the simulation so well that the simulation doctor was able to record it all through his sonic glasses and email that to the real doctor. And that's how the episode ends. The simulation ends, and the doctor, because the doctor who's after watching this, and he's like, "Oh, something big is going to happen." And that then leads us into the next episode, the pyramid at the end of the world, where this random pyramid shows up in between three of the biggest military groups, the Americans, the Russians, and the Chinese. And then it sets off a doomsday clock where it's 3 minutes to midnight, and they have to try and figure out what it is. The monks can, if they are asked for help, and the consent is pure, they'll help. If the consent is not pure and you have ulterior motives, they'll kill you. They'll kill you essentially. And so it's them trying to figure out. They think it's going to be World War III with these three military fractions. Turns out it's not. It's biochemical. Yes, there's because of one scientist who had her reading glasses broke, and one person who went out heavily drinking the night before and still went into work, accidentally being tired and hungover, pressed the wrong decimal, which created this big toxin that could, if let loose, will destroy any organic and inorganic life on planet Earth within 1 year. And so the Doctor and Nardole figure that out after the three heads of the military go to say that we surrender. Obviously, their intentions are pure. They get murked. Bill's still there. And then that's when the Doctor finally reveals to her that he's blind. And that, after he figured it out and set the thing to blow, essentially reversing back the doomsday clock. But then that stops when, he has to put in this code, but again, he can't see. So Bill goes and asks for the monk's help. And that's when the episode ends. The Doctor gets his sight back. He gets out in time. They prevent the destruction of the world. But now the monks are here to stay. Also, fun fact about this episode, the UN leader, the Japanese man who plays the UN leader, has appeared in Torchwood Season 1 in the Cyberwoman episode, as well as in this year's movie of the movie Tetris, where he played the president of Nintendo of Japan. So I knew he was going to show up at some point. I just couldn't remember when. Turns out it's in the Monk trilogy. So moving on now to the next one, which is The Lie of the Land. Now, this episode is okay. I loved Extremis. Extremis is a very, very solid episode. The Pyramid at the End of the World is pretty good. I definitely enjoyed it on this rewatch. But The Lie of the Land it's all right. The episode opens up with the Doctor talking about how the monks have always been here and the different incursions that they stop. The Daleks, which the clip that they show of the Daleks is actually reused stock footage from Series 8 into the Dalek. And then when they show the Cybermen, that's actually stock footage from the Series 7 episode Nightmare in Silver. When the Cybermen get, at the time, the new upgraded costume. And then when they showed the Weeping Angels, for a split second, it's actually footage from Series 3 episode Blink. So just thought I'd make mention to that. If you watch the show, you should easily be able to pinpoint those scenes, but some people may not. So it's just a nice little fun fact. But yeah, The Lie of the Land is all right. The doctor, Nardole eventually goes and tracks down Bill after 6 months of the monks being there. They go track down the doctor. The doctor's trying to say, "Oh no, I'm a part of the monks," and that, which upsets Bill. She then grabs a gun and shoots him. He goes to regenerate, and it's all for laughs. It's all for fakes. It's all to basically make sure that the monks' programming hasn't seeped into her. And so then they escape and they go to try and figure out how to get rid of the monks, how to break their brainwashing essentially. And so they go to talk to Missy, and um, that's when Missy's like, "Oh yeah, you got to find the person who made the deal and kill them, kill that person before they actually pass on the link, and it'll weaken them." And obviously that's not a plan because it's Bill. So then they go to one of the pyramids. This they track down the thing that's putting out this propaganda. The doctor tries to meddle with that, doesn't work. So then it's up to Bill to do it. She is the one who made the deal. And originally it was starting to look like Bill was going to die, but then she remembered her mother, and then that is what overcame the monks in the end. And that's the bit that I'm just like, eh, on. I understand. Bill's mother is somewhat of an important part. For Bill, she never met her mother. She only really actually has the photos that the doctor went out and took for her in episode one, for one of the Christmases that he was there, and like I get it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good storytelling. But hey, power of love and all that malarkey. And then the episode ends. Like I said, I grew to appreciate the Monk trilogy this time around, compared to first viewing. I definitely think for those who don't like the Monk trilogy, should give it another shot. Maybe you might find something that you might actually like from the Monk trilogy. I sure did. So yeah, now we move on to the last episode that Mark Gatiss has wrote up until this point. Series 10 has been the last time he's wrote for the show, as well as appeared in the show. And that is for the Empress of Mars. Yes, another Ice Warrior episode. And not just one Ice Warrior, multiple Ice Warriors, as well as the Empress of the Ice Warriors. So yeah, basically the Doctor, Bill, and Nardole go to NASA whilst they're looking at these new images of Mars, and turns out that there's some stones on there that says "God Save the Queen," meaning that it's from the 1800s, and so they go back in time with brand new spacesuits. For once, yes, they're not just reusing the same David Tennant spacesuit that they've been using since season 2. We finally get different spacesuits. Hallelujah. And not only that, we get to see a steampunk 1800s spacesuit that these, obviously, soldiers had to make in order to be able to go out in space after they helped Friday, the ice warrior that they found in South Africa, whilst they were stationed there. And they rebuild the ship. They end up back on Mars, and then they find the Empress. They wake her up. There's a bit of a war, and then the episode ends, with them at peace. And then there's a nod to Classic Who with these creatures that I forget the name of. It's big green red eye. I think something to do with the Third Doctor. I know that much. I think someone, probably Ian over Ian Hills the Rambling, can correct me on that one. Overall, it's definitely not his worst work for the show in terms of writing. It's not that bad. I liked it when I first watched it. I like it now. It's like there's not really much to really say about it. Um, but the next episode is the Eaters of Light, where basically Bill and the Doctor are having a disagreement on what happened to the Romans' Ninth Legion when they invaded Aberdeen in Scotland or something like that. And turns out that it's these tribe has this place set up to deal with this creature every 60 years or so. Someone who becomes the new keeper has to go into this place and fight it off. And it turns out there are still some of the Roman Ninth Legion left. They're all essentially kids, teenagers and all that. And they lure it in, and then the main person who's now the new keeper, Carr, goes in to fight them as well as the remaining of the Ninth Legion, and that's what seals it up. It's an alright episode. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's alright. So now we get to World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls. Now I have and haven't been looking forward to this. For two reasons. One, this is the best series finale of a show's history so far. It even eclipses season one's finale for me, and I love the season one finale. It's so brilliant. But World Enough in Time, The Doctor Falls, easily eclipsed that, to the point where I think if the show was to have any ending, this episode was it. If the show was never coming back and Peter Capaldi was the last Doctor, a lot of people think he should have been, because of Jodie and all, and Chris Chibnall and that this should have been where the show ended. And I fully intend to do a video talking about that, because I'm not going to do it here. This video will go on for an hour plus if I did that. But World Enough in Time, the reason why I haven't been looking forward to it is World Enough in Time, in case you don't know, was the last Doctor Who story I ever watched with my mother before she passed. This came out in June, I want to say, of 2017. When The Doctor Falls came on, me and my mother had some stupid argument to the point where I don't even remember what it was about. And I thought, what the best way to kind of punish her for the petty, stupid argument, and that is rob her of her supposed one joy, and that is me and her watching Doctor Who. And so when that episode came on, I was sat in this very room, well, lying down on my bed at the time, texting my then girlfriend, and just didn't go down to watch Doctor Who with her because I was that petty. And that is something that I regret, because if it wasn't for my mother, I would not have gotten into this show. There's a reason why I've also been looking forward to and not looking forward to doing this season. Number one, it's fantastic. This season is absolutely fantastic. Number two, when this comes out, it's now, by the time this comes out, it's now been a couple of weeks since my mother's 6th anniversary on the 3rd of November. And so it kind of seems fitting that timeline-wise that I end on this. Because if I hadn't have covered the 2009 specials as its own separate video, then this would have came out actually in October. But that's neither here nor there. World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls is a fantastic Cybermen story, a fantastic end for Capaldi, especially Missy, and I absolutely love it. World Enough in Time, especially, is top tier. It's a top tier episode. We get to see the birth of the Mondasian Cybermen, something that we haven't seen. This Mondasian Cybermen have only been in one story, and that's the 10th planet. And they've also been in a Big Finish audio, a 5th Doctor Big Finish audio called Spare Parts, which is what influenced this story, where the 5th Doctor, Nyssa, and Tegan go to Mondas. They realize they're on Mondas, and it's at the start of the Cybermen coming into power, which is similar to this. They're on a Mondasian spaceship that the Mondasian Cybermen have started up here as well. And then it opens with Bill being shot through the chest, and the episode ends with Bill being fully converted into a Cyberman, and her saying, I waited for you She waited 10 years because of the whole wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, and they've been at the arse end of the ship, where the black hole is, so time is moving slower than where Bill was at the top of the ship. So 15 minutes for them was 10 years for Bill. And as John Sims Master, which, hey, it's a multi-master story. We never really got one of those in the show, so that's neat. John Sims says, he missed her by 2 hours. Had he gone there 2 hours earlier, she wouldn't have been converted. She still would have had the chess piece, but she wouldn't have been converted. And, that's where the episode ends. I will say that the Master's disguise, I didn't know that was the Master on first viewing until he switched onto the John Sims voice and, pulled off the mask. So, even though we knew John Sims was going to be in this story, I didn't know that was John Sims, his disguise. But we get to the Doctor Falls. Perfect swan song. Like I said, I'll do another video soon, sometime in the new year, talking about how this would have been the perfect swan song. The Doctor going out, fighting the Cybermen, doing a crippling blow to them, essentially. But my one main gripe with this story, and it's a gripe that I had when it originally aired. The Mondasian Cybermen don't have a lot to do, and it sucks. It sucks, this was supposed to be their big return, and they're barely in it. There are some Mondasian Cybermen, don't get me wrong. There's even some 2006 Cybermen, and then of course the 2013 redesign. But it's primarily the 2013 redesign that we do see, and that sucks. Like, I get it, between the Dr. Bill Nardole being in floor 507 to when they're on the floor with the Cybermen, they've had plenty of time to evolve and change up. But I still would have preferred if it was just a pure Mondasian Cybermen story. But again, World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls is absolutely fantastic, and it's no wonder it's my all-time favorite story. And that is where we're going to wrap things up. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to talk about Missy's character arc. I absolutely loved it. I love the idea of Missy becoming good. And then Chris Chibnall, like he does with a lot of things in Doctor Who, messes it up. Fucking Chibs, what do you expect? But overall, I absolutely love Series 10. There are some absolute amazing episodes in this season. Capaldi, on point. Bill, massively underrated. Nardole, not as bad as people think. Missy, love the character development that she gets. And don't worry, I have a plan to rank all 13 seasons of the show at some point. Probably not long after this comes out. I'll have that done. But it's wild that I'm at this point where I'm essentially done with my Doctor Who monthly reviews. The only thing left to do now is, of course, the Christmas specials next month. And then, of course, I'll probably at some point be covering the 60th anniversary. And then there's the Christmas special. And then there's Series 14 next year. And then Series 15. But as for the monthly Doctor Who videos, they're done. And it's wild. It's been one hell of a wild ride. I've enjoyed my time so much. I've enjoyed re-experiencing this show that I absolutely love. And yeah, as I said, I'm not going to be doing Series 11, 12, and 13 because I've already done a big video on that in 2022, which is at the top of my Doctor Who reviews and more playlist. So that is going to wrap it up for me. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this journey with me, and I'll catch you all on the next upload.